Hi there, beautiful. So, I found this lady, or this very young girl really, on YouTube when I was trying to research empowered birth stories in the hospital place. And I came across this and I was like, oh great, you know, I'm just going to enjoy watching this beautiful story unfold. And let's just say it's not quite what I was expecting to see. It was quite something. I'm going to talk through the video, but basically the premise, it began with me thinking, oh, this doesn't sound quite what I was after. But I was just intrigued and I thought, right, I have to go with it and see what happened. And basically it starts with her saying that at 39 weeks she was scheduled to have her membranes stripped. Yeah, which is basically, you know, trying to induce labour. So firstly, why on earth is this happening at 39 weeks? Due date, not that there is such a thing, is 40 weeks. So, you know, we're able to give birth from 37 weeks, as early as that, to 42 weeks. And that's the normal range. So why you would try to induce a baby if it's not decided to come by itself early, I don't know. It makes no sense whatsoever. So that already got the alarm bells ringing, but I had no idea what was still to come. So I'm just going to play this video and talk through it. Excuse my language sometimes because it's just beggars belief and it just annoyed me so much. Anyway, but my doctor and I decided to schedule induction instead. So they went for just a proper induction, which means Pitocin, essentially. So first they're going to sweep the membranes. Goes on to say, the scariest day of our lives, with happy music. All lovely. So they're basically going into this like lambs to the slaughter. They're young. They are parents second time round. I don't know what happened the first time though, because they seem very, very trusting of the medical community and hospital, and just as many beeping machines as possible, as many interventions as we can have. Yeah, that will be fine. You know, just so innocent. So it started over Pitocin fluids at 10 o'clock. This nurse herself, I've just got a question whether she knows a lot about health, looking at the state of her. Not to be rude, but just, you know, she doesn't look like someone who is in health, shall we say, and abundantly knowledgeable about that. She literally is just filling her with medicines, which is my case, basically. My point, this is what they learn about medicines, illness, all that. They're not about health, wellness, let's be natural, and actually really speak to this poor girl and treat her like a human. She's just a piece of meat that she's tagging and putting things on. And looking more at the machines and the bags than the girl herself. There's no holding her hand, looking deeply into her eyes. The nicest thing about this video is the music. Look at all those tubes. Oh, it just makes me feel really angry, if I'm honest, and the machines, and I just think, oh darling, could have been so different. I want to like rip it all off her and take her out. Contractions picked up almost immediately, she writes. Well, yeah, of course they would. You've just put Pitocin, which causes really strong, painful contractions. And yeah, seeing the heart race, and it's just stressful. I don't find this relaxing. Just even the gown, the labels, you just look like a piece of meat. And you know, she's pretty on her own, okay, thankfully. She's got a hubby there in the background, but he, bless him, looks quite lost and forlorn. She's doing quite well at this point, you know, she's really just trancing out, closing her eyes, staying very relaxed. Hats off to her in that environment, being able to hold it together. But I'd like to see someone with them all. Like, you know, a doula or a caring midwife.
We're here at the hospital. We have my IV in and we're getting Pitocin, and I was already having contractions, but they're already starting to speed up. And then we are going to break my water, I think, and then get the epidural. So I think we're gonna have a baby here soon. How do you feel?
I'm gonna break her water and do an epidural.
Ready to meet him?
Yeah. Just let him come out.
We have a while. We just got here.
Yeah,
They're so naive and innocent.
Number 2. How do you feel?
Leave the hospital.
What do you have to say to him?
stop them doing what they're doing.
Easy on us, please. And love you.
I'm sorry if I yell at you. Over the course of the next 24 hours or however long it takes. Hopefully not.
Hopefully not that long.
Hopefully it'll be just a few more hours. I'm ready to meet you. I love you. And please don't make this hard on us. On me. Let's just make this be an easy labor and delivery. So far, so good. So far, it's a lot easier than last time.
Yeah.
But we
I dread to think what happened last
I
time.
could definitely change, but I am going to get an epidural.
The fact she's saying go easy on me to the baby is already like
Definitely having,
she's handing all of her responsibility over
and they're definitely worse.
to someone else. Instead of going, I'm going to take control of this. It's not the baby's fault, is it, if the
And they're
birth isn't easy?
And I forgot to say that Addie is with my mom. She's
It's the situation she's put herself
talk
in.
about because I'm gonna cry. I've already cried a few times today.
She misses her other child.
Not to think about the fact that I'm away from her because I've really never been away from her. So I'm excited to get home to her as soon as I can.
There's something about waking up and seeing her smile in the morning.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time, so I'm not even gonna try not to think about it. Just try to focus.
She could be at home with her baby. Feeling that oxytocin flowing in her environment. She probably wouldn't have needed that. Well, she definitely wouldn't have needed that Pitocin. It's not like it's helpful in any way apart from causing really painful labour, which they've done to her early anyway. The baby wasn't ready to come out. So she could be with her gorgeous little daughter and her mum at home. No need for her to be in this situation right now. And yeah, like I just said, put the responsibility onto the unborn baby, make it easy on me. It's just ludicrous. She as the mother should be owning this and thinking, I'm going to make this easy on my baby. I'm not going to give you loads of massively strong contractions to deal with, break your waters, and drug you out with an epidural that you're completely spaced out, don't know what's going on. Can't breastfeed, can't bond with me later. But this is the naive innocence. I'm not saying it's her fault at all. I'm just appalled by the lack of preparation and the lack of honesty at the hospital. You know, the manipulation of getting into it. After that, contractions started getting more intense. It's very, yeah. This is why it's worrying, because you're like, are they normal contractions or are they Pitocin-induced ones that they're so stupidly intense that it's now harmful to the baby? You just don't know. But she's agreed to having her waters broken, so that's going to happen in a minute, which big no-no in my book as well, and you'll find out why. So she's only been in there 3 hours, and now they've broken her water and given her an epidural to cope with the extremely painful contractions she's in because of the Pitocin they gave her. 3 hours is nothing. 3 hours of her being in there. Labour can take 2-3 days. What's the rush? Tell you what the rush is. They want her in and out of there. They want to make money out of this, and they want to get the next one lined up. And look at all that. Oh goodness, all those machines, and it's so unnecessary. And the showing of the thing they're gonna break her waters with, to me that's really like, ugh. Don't put that thing on me. That would get my adrenaline going. It'd definitely inhibit my oxytocin. But she trusts them implicitly. And they go with a big smile on their face, about to use her body basically. She doesn't need it at all. Interfere with it. Completely unnecessary intervention. Ooh, I'm gonna rip it out of her hand and just throw it away, bin. And say to these people, what is wrong with you? She's been in it for 3 hours. Why are you like forcing this? And invading her body like this. Violent. To me, this is violent. The music masks it a lot, but oh no. And then the sadistical smile of like, yeah, do it to her. No thanks. Once my bag of waters were completely drained, my blood pressure and the baby's heart rate kept dropping. Good sign or not so good? They stopped all Pitocin and tried to keep us in normal ranges with oxygen, fluid and medications. They stopped Pitocin because they realised they'd screwed up now, and they had to stop having these really heavy contractions on the baby because it was putting so much pressure on the baby. Nothing was working. Brilliant. Thanks a lot for interfering with my body. She doesn't look so well now. She's on a breath machine, 3:21, 5.5 hours later. The nurse decided to check my cervix, and when she did, she discovered the worst obstetric emergency that could occur during birth. A prolapsed and compressed umbilical cord. This hardly ever happens if you haven't been interfered with. The baby's umbilical cord was hanging out of my cervix with his head on top of it, compressing it and cutting off his oxygen supply. The nurse immediately used her hand to push the baby's head up and off the umbilical cord and called for help. Within minutes, the room was filled with doctors, and we were rushed into an emergency C-section with the nurse keeping her hand inside of me the entire time to keep the baby's head off the cord. 3:43, nearly 6 hours into being in the hospital, our miracle baby boy was born. Poor little thing. Right, so thank God he's safe, and mummy's safe. I'll unleash in a minute. Thankfully, they were able to save him, and he was born just 22 minutes after the nurse checked my cervix. We're still recovering, but we'll both be okay. Thank you so much for your thoughts through this time. And thank you so much to the medical team, and especially the nurse who literally saved our baby's life. Okay, this bit, that bit, is the bit that enraged me more than any of it, because this poor, innocent, sweet girl has no idea that the very nurse that saved her baby's life was the one that put the baby's life in jeopardy. Right, so breaking the waters like that, when you're already under the influence of heavy contractions and you're in an immobile position because you've been given an epidural, is extremely dangerous. Because basically you've taken the cushioning away from the baby, where it's, you know, normally bubbling around in the, oh God, what's the word? No, the amniotic sac, but the actual, my God, I'm going mad. Blown a video now.
No, you can edit.
When it's in the placenta.
Oh, right.
Placenta? Is the whole thing called the placenta? Yeah, no? I don't know, anyway.
No, the placenta's the...
Yeah, so when it's in the womb, in the waters, it's floating around, it's buoyant, it's actually meant to be like that. You know, that, again, the body hasn't done this by accident, so that when the baby's being pressed down on your pelvic bones, that the cord isn't itself being pressed down directly onto the bones. It's still in a bubble, it's still being cushioned, you know, it's still in perfect condition. Okay, sometimes our waters break on our own. It's happened to me once. And that's fine, but it wouldn't have been all of your waters because there's a lot of waters that break. So you're always going to have some cushioning there. But this woman obviously deliberately went in, this nurse, and broke all the waters. And because the cord is really quite long, you can't decide, you know, where the cord's going to fall once the waters are broken. It may be above the baby's head, but they may fall under as well, which is called a prolapse. And then it could get caught between the baby's head and the bones of the mum, like the pelvic bones, right? And then you're really putting pressure on the cord. So it's basically very, very much compromising the amount of oxygen that's going through to the baby, which is why the baby's heart rate dropped and the blood pressure dropped and put the baby into distress. And the nurse obviously knew to look out for that as one of the signs when that happened. Oh, that might have happened. And obviously lifted the baby's head off, because the baby's head is one of the heaviest things in the baby's body, to ensure that the cord could then basically open up again and get the oxygen flowing to the baby. But she knew that that was the thing to do. So she knew that could be a potential complication. So why do it in the first place? Why break the waters in the first place? And the only reason that nurses or midwives or OBGYNs have broken the waters in the past is because they thought that that released oxytocin naturally, and it does. It does release oxytocin naturally. But why would you need to do that, given the fact that it's also really dangerous? You can release oxytocin in other ways, like having a loving, secure environment for the mother, tweaking your nipples, kissing your partner. There's so many different ways. There's other videos I've done on how to get your oxytocin levels up. You don't have to break the waters to do it. And if you've been given loads of Pitocin already, which is the synthetic oxytocin, why do you need even more? Like, the contractions were already super strong, so you don't need to put even more force behind it, because that could be really dangerous in other ways of, like, you know, causing uterine rupture. So basically, the whole emergency cesarean that took place from when she walked in at 10 and the baby was born just before 4, so it was a 6-hour thing, could have been completely avoided. They did it to her. 39 weeks, she's, you know, membranes are swept. That didn't do it. That wasn't violent enough. Now we're going to basically induce her with Pitocin. That hasn't kick-started it enough. We'll break her waters as well. I mean, they're doing everything to aggravate the baby and to get it to come out. Then they put the baby in stress because the cord prolapsed and the baby's head was pressing on the cord, and you've got all these really strong contractions pressing on the baby. So it's, and then, yeah, you've ended up in an emergency C-section. So well done, team there at the hospital. The baby came out quickly, but it was a completely avoidable traumatic experience that could have been deadly to both, you know, baby and mother, and it's disgusting. And the fact that she is saying thank you to them just gets me even more. So anyway, I needed to share that video with you to just say, look, this is the example that I'm trying to say when I say you could be very manipulated. You think you're giving consent, you think you're making informed choices when you go and entrust the medical community. But if you're this naive and innocent, you don't know what you're saying yes to. She didn't know that that could happen and that caused those different cascade of interventions. And she still doesn't know, even after the event. She still thinks that they saved her baby's life rather than put their baby in danger. Yes, they saved his life after putting it in danger, but am I going to thank you for doing that? No, not really. It could have been avoided. So, yeah, I hope that video has been insightful for you too, because I really don't want you to be somebody that could end up in such a traumatic experience. It was obviously really deeply horrifying for them, even though she's added nice music to it and everything. You can see how distressed she is from the words she uses, and yeah, she must have been terrified. You never know, it might put her off having another. Her story will make other women think that birth is really dangerous, and it will make the medical communities think that yes, they are really needed, and it just gives them, like, you know, a job's worth, a reason for being there. That was not an emergency situation. That was not where they were needed. It would have been a lot better if they could have just held her hand and been loving to her to get her oxytocin up when she was ready, possibly a week or 2 or 3 later. Anyway, I hope that's been helpful. I'm going to stop ranting now. Bye for now.